Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Thank you for joining us today. We at STP truly hope you all are doing well and taking care of yourself and staying safe. We may all not be sailing in the same boat, but we all are sailing through the same storm for sure. And I'm positive we will all come out of this stronger than before. With that said, welcome to our today's episode of the STP Training Webinar Series. The title for our talk today is Lean QA, Monitoring Experiments Automation. Our guest speaker joining us on the webinar is Kateryna Chernikova. I'm Smita Mishra. I'm a tester myself and a sustainability enthusiast too. And I'm excited to host you all and Kateryna on our STP webinars. Before we get started with the webinar, let me quickly share an important update that may interest you. There is an upcoming webinar, Performance Assurance Evolution for Your Organization, on the 29th of April. The speaker is Leandro Melendez. He's a manager at the Qualitest Group, and in this webinar, Leandro will talk about the blunders that organizations fall into when tackling performance, and he will also provide recommendations towards a mature performance management. The link is up for you to register. Please do go for it. Also, we are inviting proposals for webinars from all of you, and this shall be open all year round. So if you can, and you can submit anytime you're ready. If you would like to speak at STP webinars, do send in your proposals. All the details along with the submission form are at the link given on the screen. Please go through them. And if you are on Twitter, please share the conference details and call for papers information, and also about this webinar with your followers and connections. You can add STP's Twitter handle to your tweets, which is @SoftwareTestPro. Also do add the hashtag STP webinar to your tweets. And you can also note down the Twitter handle for our speaker today, which is shown on the screen. All right, let's get started with the webinar today. Welcome, Kateryna. And I also know that you like to get, I think you use the word Kate. You use the name Kate, so I'll call you that now. We are very excited to have you with us today, and let me quickly introduce you for all of us here. Kate is working at Wix as QA manager and has been practicing QA for over 7 years. She's very passionate about QA and was previously working with Sitecore. She lives in Ukraine and is a mom of awesome twin boys. All right, now let's start learning the Lean QA. So I'm going to hand over. Okay, there you go.
Yes, hi everyone. Thanks a lot, Smita, for introduction. I'm very happy to be a presenter here today at STP Webinars. This is my very first live talk to people in the other part of the world, literally in thousands of kilometers away from me. Thanks for joining today. I hope you will enjoy next upcoming hour. Let me please start with not an introduction, but with wishes. I wish everyone is healthy, stays strong and safe in this tough time. Our family survived this period with no stress, and it ends soon and happily for everyone, every person in the world. To make next hour cozy for myself, I brought my favorite mug with myself, with some coffee, despite it's already 7 or 4 p.m. in Ukraine. But still, I hope you're having your coffee or tea or any other drink of your choice with yourself. And I wish that you get some interesting input and some useful information for your professional days soon during this hour. So finally, let me introduce myself now. My name is Kate. It's Kateryna Chernikova, fully in Ukrainian. I'm from Dnipro. It is in eastern part of Ukraine. I have recently turned 31, had my quarantine birthday party with my family and friends, and despite the isolation and everything, it was fabulous. I didn't even expect. As it was already said by Smita, I am a mom of awesome 5-year-old twin boys, and also I'm a QA person for about 8 years now. Last 1.5 years of which I'm a part of great and outstanding as IC company named Wix, playing a role of a QA guild leader which is a combination of management position and also some engineering practices, and which I enjoy a lot. Today, we're going to talk about how we do QA at Wix. And to begin with, let me share a few numbers about our company, about our business, so you get a little background for the upcoming talk. Here on this slide, I can uncover a few facts about us. So starting from the one on the very top, we are having quite big user base and it's growing fast. Now it's getting even closer to 200 million users so far, even bigger than on this slide. We have 2 million of signups monthly. So new users, 2 million users are joining us each month. The company is made of more than 2,500 people who are spread over 7 different locations. Here are only mean R&D departments because customer care and customer support offices we have all around the world. We also have direct colleagues in Vilnius, Lithuania, and of course Ukraine. There are 2 locations, Dnipro, where I am, and Kyiv. The company consists of 30 mini companies, which we sometimes call separate startups. People in these startups work independently, separately, but each and every engineer is still united within the professional guilds, like QA Guild, which I'm a member of. There is also a guild for front-end guys, for UX, for product management, etc., etc. There are more than 20 different guilds we have in our company. We do run A/B tests, and actually quite a lot of them. It is 200 tests open on daily basis, and we also have 1,500 of them being running during the months. And the last number here, the smallest, 8 minutes. I would be happy if you can share your guesses in chat if there is an option. So if you type a suggestion of what does 8 minutes mean to us. I'll count up to 8, letting you do this, and we'll uncover for you the real answer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 8 minutes for us is actually how frequently our production env is updated. Basically, if you're coming to Wix.com each 8 minutes, it is a different environment, somehow different environment. Some features are opened, some infrastructure updates have taken place, some tests been running and producing some data, but it's that often, it is that often changed. How do you think we survive in this space? To do it, we are adjusting our approach constantly. We are paying a lot of attention to the product state, and we also keep and carry the proper attitude across all the company. And the very first thing which matters to us is that we do test in production. Do you know many companies doing this? I know a few famous ones for sure, and I'm pretty sure you too. And also I'm quite confident that this number is getting bigger each day. But why do we do it? We do it because we can, we simply have production, not everyone does. We also do it because we know the value, and which is even more important, we realize possible risks. And what is the value, if you ask? For sure, it is a real performance, production servers, real environment, real data, real users which in concurrency and simultaneously with us are running their sessions, and we are taking development, testing activities, explorations, a kind of emulations of what real users do, but same time when real users really use our product. We do test early and often since we have a single prod environment. Sometimes there are things which cannot be mocked or cloned because of technical issues or technical complexity, and we do not need these cases. It's simply not our case. We also do testing in cloud, since we are a cloud-based company, and the relevance of testing cloud is not something which need to be discussed at all, right? We can also run performance tests without no specific preparation, since we have environment for this already. Well, basically, the only prod is prod. But for sure, there are risks, like this huge fire behind the Brave team, and we realize these risks. Among them is one of them is keeping the application up and running constantly, assuring that there is no data loss, assuring that there is a way to roll back and recover system if there was a failure. It's also a risk to harm your users in life if some bad code has been released. And also the performance tests, which can be run in production and which I mentioned as a pro, can also produce bad user experience for users by loading environment too much. There are plenty of techniques. We use quite many of them. I'll list you just a few, so you know. We are using gradual rollout, meaning that our new features and releases are not happening for each and every user simultaneously. We are selecting smaller groups and starting from a limited amount of people involved, and then involve more and more and bigger groups. We also use canary deployment, meaning that bigger features and comprehensive changes can be deployed to production piece by piece, part by part, one by one, checking the state after each and tiny piece. We also have a test bed environment, which can be used as a fast pre-check of the code being released or is getting ready to be released. We also have automatic rollback systems, which make it safer. We use automated user acceptance tests, which are fast and lightning fast response on the state of quality. We use multivariate testing, and we do use a lot of monitoring systems, synthetic and on real users as well. I have mentioned multivariate testing in addition to others, and this one is one of major approaches we use for all the company. For us, we do experiments. I'm pretty sure that most of people or everyone knows what experiment means, but what we call experiment is simply changing the system's behavior. For us, there are two types of these experiment exist. The first one is so-called feature toggle. This one I should start from just because we follow feature toggle development process in our teams. The feature toggle is basically an if statement which robs each and every piece of code committed to our repos. If the toggle is on or equals to positive value, yes, the code is running in production. If it is off or equals to negative value, the code is not executed. This approach has very strong pros. It provides possibility to have early commit. Developer is free to commit their code to repos with no harm in production for everyone or environment for any other developer or consumer. It also can be a way to get an early feedback, since once code is committed and feature toggle is available, QA can get the code to be tested before anyone else in the world. It provides safety for the teams, for developers, and for everyone in the company. This is actually what QA use the feature toggles to turn on not released feature for themselves for early deep and dive testing before opening it to real users. So basically, the code can be tested, monitored, refactored, fixed, redeployed as many times as we want. It's like a full testing cycle, but in same production environment and with limited, or I should better say, better controlled availability. For sure, we have a lot of feature toggles, and to manage them and to control their state, there is an open source product created at Wix. It's available for everyone in the world. Petri Sidekick it is called. code. Using this link and the QR code, you can get it for yourself, for your team, for your company. And there is also a quite cute guinea pig UI interface, which allows QA people, development teams, product management, UX, whoever else knowing the feature toggle name and specification to view control experiments running and to get an idea of their state. Here I'm saying experiments on humans. And what do I mean by experimenting on people? I mean that using feature toggles, we can make the code available for a specific group of people, as I mentioned just a little bit earlier. We can open the code for a well-thought target audience of users, which are properly selected based on some rule. So for instance, we can open some feature for in Ukraine or for Israeli people. We can also use audience language to select. Like we can only open some translations for Japanese people, since it's valuable only for them. We can also choose people based on what browser do they use. If they are coming with Chrome, we will show them some feature. If they are coming with Internet Explorer, for instance, we will not, since it can work unexpectedly sometime. It's also a matter of choice, the user status for the system sometimes. We treat differently anonymous users or registered ones. We also can avoid using bots in our analytics, so to not pollute valuable data that we gather constantly with some robot sessions. There is also a very specific and interesting group of people which is the most valuable in testing matter. It's weak staff, since some experiments or feature toggles are enabled for employees only, and so we do a very deep and dive but early testing cycles by all employees involved in some user sessions doing their own testing with no even clue that they are helping out to the other team. I have told a lot about feature toggles, but this is just one type of experiments we use at Wix. We also have A/B tests, which I told already, and there are a lot of them. And the A/B test is also an experiment. It is also a system behavior change, but in this case, we care a lot about its state, so-called stateful experiment, in opposite to stateless feature toggles. So let me tell you a story of an A/B test. When people are coming to Wix to sign up, their aim is to create a stunning website for themselves, for their businesses. And to achieve this, at some point, there were two possible ways available. Using so-called Wix editor with comprehensive drag and drop, with hundreds of elements available, with abilities to customize styles, to configure applications manually in whatever way they want. And there was also a simpler way to use so-called ADI system, artificial design intelligence, by just answering a few simple questions like what is your site main topic, and what do you have a domain, what is your preference on coloring, etc. So you can answer these questions and have your site created in a few minutes, literally. This ADI options was added later to make products more available and suitable for people with less experience working with HTML, CSS, etc. And it has been introduced via experiment on UI. Here is on the screen the winner option, which actually exists up until now. I can also tell you that there were plenty of other variants when it's been decided to roll this out. There was a ability to use ADI using a link on the main page. There was an option with horizontal positioning of options, not vertical like here. There were different color schemes, etc. But something simple and lightweight, like here, which may even look a bit too simple, but it has actually won the experiment, and which is nice, but was surprising, it has increased our monitored KPIs for dozens of times. And it could only have happened if we have tried it on practice and run that experiments. So what is the point here? The point is that running A/B is a good strategy to build the product, as well as to test your hypothesis on users' expectations. But is it simple? For sure not. Doing A/B testing requires a lot of preparation. Product management, business analysts, in cooperation with QA and dev team, need to establish the experiment and to define it properly and clearly. Owners need to know exact moment when the experiment begins, the specific selected system event the experiment, and also the experiment is finished. It is also vital to define the longitude. For now, for how long will the experiment be open? And what I have mentioned a bit earlier, the human beings. So the target group of people, its size, and the rule by which they have been chosen is also very important to select, since we will involve them and evaluate their experiences. We should also clearly state the KPIs to monitor. By KPIs, I mean any valuable information you want and need to track when some A/B test is running. So for instance, we have a freemium business model for our products, meaning that majority of tasks can be performed for free by users just signing up, but they can also buy premium packages to get some advanced features. So monitoring that KPIs, the KPI about premiums rate is vital for us, for our business, since it's our money. But sometimes monitoring KPI, it's not about a change for better. Sometimes we need to make sure that the code change hasn't make it worse. So-called defensive test. So let's imagine that we need to upgrade some framework we use, or we need to perform some refactoring of code, or to use another version of our dependent APIs. Then defensive tests take place. What's in this for QA engineers, actually? Since it's more about building the product map, about creating your product strategy and pushing it to the market properly. Since position of a quality-oriented person is not just in creating a product, in developing it, but meeting user expectations, QA people are strongly involved in experiments preparation as well as running, since it is a tool to build up the product itself, but also to know the user voice and the reality of our customers. It gives everyone, and QA specifically, understanding of the business value of the product we are creating, and also the ultimate goal of the product functionality which we develop. So let me sum up a little bit. To succeed with multivariate testing, with A/B testing in this specific case, you should better remember a few things. Sometimes it's strongly recommended to not follow your common sense. How weird does it seem? Sometimes something which feels like a good or better option in UI, for instance, cannot always be so. You just need to try an experiment. You should always not to even try to lie with numbers, since teams tend to play their own games with selecting very fine defined target groups, or their sizes, or maybe the longitude of the experiment, which will work better for the options they like personally. But we need to try to be honest here and try to experiment honestly. We should also test where the biggest impact is. We should not create an A/B test in the place where it doesn't really matter for users, or where the difference is not that eligible and you cannot actually understand the value or the change for better or not. The tests need to be defined clearly, precise numbers, well-selected rule for people choice, set time frame, selected KPIs, and the rate of these KPIs to vary. It's not enough to just create and open the test, since it's even more a matter of gathering the outcome, to store, study, and share the results, for the team to discuss and analyze the data, and maybe to improve the strategy of development for future. Please remember that multivariate testing is not a silver bullet. There are easy and less expensive ways to know your user voice and to build up the product map for your market. You can simply sit next to you and questionnaires, etc., which will be less expensive and maybe less resource and cost less for you. And the last but not least is that the winner option, which have been chosen as a winner for 10% of your users, for instance, can work differently for 100% when the feature is fully open. It may happen. It may happen just because experimenting is anyway taking a little bit of risk. So do not overestimate the results. As I mentioned earlier, we run a lot of A/B tests, hundreds and thousands of them. And we do it simultaneously for more than 30 teams in same environment, sometimes in same time. To stay mentally fine, something is a crucial aspect for us. I'm pretty sure that no one will argue with me if I say that this crucial aspect is automation. Yes, we do automate a lot. We have automation on many, many levels during all phases of the development life cycle. Knowing the number of possible new features, the variety of changes, and sometimes unpredictable combinations of those, which we realize that cannot be controlled and assured manually by just people's hands. We have established automated processes for CI/CD for sure, to control the code story, the team access restrictions, etc. We'd also have automated release and deploy pipelines, as everyone does, yes, but still. There are many and a lot of automated tests on all levels: unit tests, integration tests, E2E, appearance. All of them are created by teams, and we have plenty of different tools to write them. We do have automated UART scope, as I mentioned some time ago. There are also automatic checks in testbed environment, which is actually a possibility to assure code is checked fast in a bit of isolated and limited env, which is close to reality, to the production one, but not fully it. There is also automated rollback systems, which work in cases whenever something still went wrong and something bad have been deployed as a production and harmed its state strongly. And we also have systems of automated monitoring. And by monitoring, I mean two different directions of it. The first one is related to monitoring A/B test results. We gather, store, and analyze data. Here on the screenshot, you see the sample Tableau report, the system we use to view the impact of tests, its interim and final results, the winning option rate, etc., etc. The KPIs monitored. So for QAs, it can be also quite useful, since we can get insights about products' pain points, about the general picture of feature flows, the real user scenarios, which can be and are used in future test sessions, and also for test documentation, for test cases and checklists creation. The second screenshot here is also from Tableau, but it's related to monitoring of the system health. We also have Anadot, Grafana, New Relic, and other systems and tools which we use to control and view the state of production, resources, load, performance characteristics, errors and failure rate, everything is controlled in 24/7 mode. And also teams are alarmed automatically in urgent channels if something has actually went wrong and there is an action need to be taken. In addition to everything, it is not enough to say that having all the things automated and set up in scale is enough. I need to also add that we are 10 P's compliant. Whatever it means is on slide. Yes, it may sound a little weird to you, so let me explain. Some time ago, I've been to European Testing Conference in Valencia, where I have attended a talk by Angie Jones. Here she is on the picture, giving this talk, and it was related to testability. Angie is a very experienced and skilled TA and a great presenter and a nice person. I met her personally. It was a great time. So during that talk, she has uncovered, for myself for sure, but maybe for somebody else, a technique of 10 P's of testability, which I have read afterwards about and which I have found useful and interesting to consider for everyone. So basically, the idea is about evaluating the upcoming project before even starting development or during some development phase. It doesn't really matter. But doing it according to 10 vectors, all of which are starting with, coincidentally or not, with P letter. So these are the P's. The project P means that time, resources, space need to be properly provided and planned carefully to get the work done. People need to have a required mindset, knowledge, and skills which suits the project need, the product need. The product itself needs to be designed to be testable. It should facilitate exploratory testing. It should be available for automation on all levels, on all needed levels. The problem, this is a P which I think that teams tend to forget sometimes. But team needs to understand what is the problem to be solved by the product and what is the business value of what we do. The process should help to decompose work units, to not accumulate tech debt or to work with it properly within the development life cycle. The pipeline needs to be fast and reliable. It should be accessible, flexible, and the way to work need to provide possibility to get an early feedback and to adjust during the process if something has dramatically changed. The proactivity is about team and about the way to actively search for improvement, to learn from mistakes, to investigate new tools which may work better in this case in new context if it has changed. The philosophy of the whole team need to be about the shared responsibility on everything, on quality, on requirements, on user voice. And it's also about collaboration. Productivity should be reflected in a blend of test and development activities which fits product needs. Team needs to often consider some updates and to review the blend of tools and instruments they use to perform the development. Philosophy I have skipped, I'm sorry. So the philosophy is about, no, I have told it, sorry. And the last one, but not least, again, the production issues. Teams should not be overwhelmed with customer-facing issues. Of course, there can be bugs from users. There can be some incidents, some support issues. But if they occur, team need to have a way to quickly detect them in their product, to debug, to fix and deploy the fix. If there are too many of such issues, team needs to get some support from on-call people, from support, or maybe there should be a dedicated team created so that development process is not interrupted that much. What can we do knowing all of these 10 P's is to try to estimate the team and the project status according to all of these 10 items. And we can also mark with green the ones which we find in a good shape, in a good state in our team. With yellow, we can mark those which are not that fully covered or maybe unclear for us and in which we are in doubt about. With red, we need to mark the ones which are missing, which are not working well for us in our setup. And eventually, you kind of get the or just a few columns with P's and their marks, red, green, and yellow ones. And let's imagine that, for instance, you have 5 red items. It very likely will mean that the project should not even be started in setup like this. We will struggle a lot, and it's even possible that the project can fail. So it's worth to start working on important ones, important from the team point of view or your SQA point of view, to improve and boost required aspects, to get the better setup, better prepared team, and all these P's to eventually succeed with the project. So looking at all the things which I have already told, I can easily say that we do Lean, or we do development and QA specifically in a smart and optimized way. A well-known Lean development introduced and established by Toyota quite a long time ago is about eliminating wastes. And what wastes do you think we eliminate by this process? Do we do some? And actually we do. We work well in optimizing these 5 categories of waste. The very first one is about an uncontrolled overprocessing. We do not cook the feature, so to say, for too long until it becomes that burnt like that bread and that black and uneatable. We deliver it in ready-to-consume state, and we tend to get an early user's feedback on its taste, its flavor, if it's fine for them. And we do improve if it's really needed. We add some salt or butter or whatever. We also do not do overproduction. If, let's say, 3 of 5 planned features work fine and are just enough for business needs and cover all scenarios, we may stop development. We do not need to release more and more features just because it was originally planned so. We may leave it as it is and switch to something new, some interesting and valuable uncovered still part of the product for future. We also save ourselves from unneeded waiting, reducing time to deploy, to find and reproduce bugs by having user data in place, by having production in place. We do not need to waste time on kind of transport, changes, logs, etc. And we also do not need to replan resources by some test servers, etc. Saving time is always for better, isn't it? And another part we are optimizing is a waste of configuration. We do not spend tons of time to configure development environment and test env and pre-prod environment. We simply do not have them. We do use production by shaping it for specific need of individual, which protects us from this configuration hell, so to say. And the last but not least, as always in my talk, it's a potential waste, a waste of potential. Since we do follow shared ownership of quality, and since all team representatives are involved in planning, in test creation and testing itself, QA are mostly focused on highly intellectual analytics work and also on explorations of the most complex and complicated cases, which makes a better feeling of own value of something which you bring to your work, to your team, to the product, and to the business at the end. I hope all these 5 make sense to you, and eliminating this waste sounds reasonable to you as well. But right before ending my talk, I need to warn you, be careful with the experiments and maybe testing in your life, since it may become more real than you even think. This is a joke, of course. These are my twin boys, my sons, and I'm thanking you for listening to me, and I'm happy to answer all your questions if there are any.
Thank you, Kate. It was a pretty insightful session. Thank you so much. I'm sure our attendees also found it informative. Yeah, let me look at the questions quickly. Okay, so here is our first question. How do you perform and share results of these A/B testing and other tests that you do across your geographically located, like differently located test teams?
Okay, if I understood correctly, the question is about people who are spread geographically and are participants of certain A/B tests. If so, then yeah. Okay, so when this A/B test is about to be rolled out, the target audience is already selected, and it can be the geolocation based. So let's imagine that, for instance, US and Ukrainian people are involved, and these 2 categories are monitored separately, but in the same time, simultaneously. There is so-called BI event or business intelligence event item, which exists in our development process. This is a system event which produced by the code, and which QA and developers need to assure that they have developed it properly and built it into the code. So each session created by the person from US, in this case, will send respective BI event to our analytics databases, which are quite big ones, and we can then analyze using the BI event from a certain user with a certain location, what has the user session been, and what was the result, were there any errors, were there any issues, or everything went smoothly. And actually we can get the full picture, fingerprints of the person moving through the system, through the products we have built. So basically we have all the information about the user and the geographic location as well. We do not share it with users. We only share it within the company and the team.
Great. Here is your next question. Can you explain philosophy out of the 10P again, please?
Sure. So the philosophy is about the whole team ownership. Philosophy is when the team is not split in between engineering practices, like I'm a developer, I will only produce code, I'm a QA, I will only test it, and I'm UX, I do not even care if it works fine, but it should look like. Philosophy of the proper testability 10 Ps is when team owns quality of the product altogether, when they are collaborating properly and they tend to communicate a lot about how it should work, if it works fine, if there was a bug and how did it happen that we miss it, how did it escape to the production. It's about the team being a real team and own the aspects of the product in all matters altogether.
Great, thank you. Michelle asks, okay, first comment is she loves the jacket, AB jackets on the boys.
Oh, thank you.
And the question is, has Wix always worked in this way, or is current practice an evolution from a more conventional methodology?
To be honest, Wix is already 16 years old, and it's not always been so, like using A/B tests, but it was so for more than 10 years already. So it's quite a long running process, and it's not about to change. We have some strategy to maybe improve the process, etc. But it's not a matter of change. I'm not so sure about what was the process originally before A/B testing, but for now and for future, it's a strongly beloved multivariate testing and testing in production.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Here is your next question.
Mm-hmm.
What precautions should be taken to perform load tests in production environment, and what additional benefits we get out of such tests when we already have scale performance environment similar to production?
Mm-hmm. So the best thing about testing in prod and running performance tests is that we do not need to create a separate environment which will emulate or be a clone of our production. We simply have one already, and we have users constantly interacting with it. Since our geography is quite wide, we have users in 190 countries of the world. So it's like 24/7 is being used by somebody in some place of the world. And we do not need to emulate additional load for the servers, for data centers, since we always have some. The only thing we need to consider is that to get ready with the test, the performance test, we should better find a proper time and a proper data center with required load, which will not become critical for users if we add some load from our side. So the matter of getting ready for performance test is finding the right time, the right data centers, and also finding the time when there are no critical and mission critical for the company experiments are being running, or some A/B tests which are crucial for the business.
Great. Here is your other question.
Mm-hmm.
What are your main struggles with being a manual QA and an automation QA?
Wow. To be honest, I do not split this as a separate job descriptions. In our company, each QA is a QA engineer with no separating if it's manual or automated tasks. Everyone does everything. It's like when you need to create an auto test, end-to-end test for some feature, you are using the tools you have, you're contacting developers to help you out with some new tooling or with some coverage. And also when you need to perform some manual test and you're, let's say, busy with automation, you're involving your product manager or analytics team, or maybe UX person to help you out. So basically you're like balancing in between everything. It's up to QA to distinguish what's most critical to achieve coverage on auto tests first and then exploratory testing, or maybe some UX acceptance, UI acceptance by product, and then creating auto tests in between, gathering information for A/B. So there is no struggle. Creating auto tests is just a tool to get the product tested, and as well to be sure that it will not break soon, or not soon, but sometime later.
Wow, this was one of the best answers I've heard on this. So thank you. And I'm going to take our last question. That is, so the question is, can Kate go over A/B testing again? What is the difference between A and B? Now, what I believe A and B are different options that you would like to check which one is doing better, but I would let you go ahead and respond to it.
Sure. So for A/B test and the way how we do use it, A is always an existing option. You cannot choose two different options since you do not have a baseline to compare with. A is always the current state of the product and the current behavior, and B is always something new which we try to use. So if B option provides us better results or shows increase on KPIs, then B is a winner. And if it's not, then A, previous state, is much better, and then B need to be reworked, changed, updated, and then redeployed, and then we run the test again. In this case, B option can even be replaced with some totally different option, but it still will be kind of B, called B.
In that case, Kate, like, can we apply this for new features? Like when we are coming up with new features, when there is no A existing, there is no existing baseline then?
Yeah, sure. Then if a new feature is coming, we just need to set the KPIs which we want to monitor, and to monitor people who are using the previous feature before update as an option A, and then to view the B results as a other option of improved feature.
Great. Thank you, Kate. With that, I think we are done with the questions. So thank you for sharing all the details. That really helps a lot. I'm sure, again, that attendees found the Q&A also, yeah, informative and useful too. So thank you. We all enjoyed your presentation and look forward to more from you. You happen to be our first speaker from Ukraine, and so we hope to see more from you and more people from Ukraine. Yeah.
It's been an honor for me. Thank you very much. I enjoyed a lot and hope you will find it useful for your daily work.
Yes, absolutely. All right, everyone. This concludes our webinar for today. And thank you for joining. More importantly, thank you for being engaging and making the most of the webinar for yourself and the whole group. Stay tuned for more webinars at Software Test Pro. We have an upcoming webinar, which is Performance Assurance Evolution for your organization on the 29th of this month. The speaker is Leandro Melendez, who is a manager at the Quality Test Group. In this webinar, Leandro is going to talk about the blunders that organizations fall into when tackling performance, and he will also provide recommendations towards a mature performance management. If the subject interests you, please do sign up for it. Same again at softwaretestpro.com. And before I leave, let me also remind you the call for paper submissions. The call for submissions for the webinars for the year is open and will remain open all year round. Please do send in your proposals as soon as possible at the given link. Thank you, everyone. God bless you, and please stay healthy and safe. Practice safe social distancing, and good luck for all you too. Thank you.